where myself, the boomer, as Gustavo likes to call me, and my colleague here, Gustavo, the Tide Pod Eater, discuss different subjects in the world and life in general. So, Gustavo, before we get into this week's topic, which is very controversial, how was your week?
You know, before you called me a Tide Pod Eater, oh my god, I'm speaking weird. Before you called me a Tide Pod Eater, I want to say I'm proud of it, Brian, okay? I'm a Tide Pod Eater and I'm proud.
I mean,
But
hey,
anyways,
they look like nice candies.
yeah. Look, you gotta understand sometimes you get hungry and sometimes you just grab the most colorful thing, and sometimes it happens to be a Tide Pod, and that's okay. Okay, so this week has been, oh my god, it's been good but also very stressful, and I'm very tired, but it hasn't been too bad. It's just a lot of shit packed in 1 week. I've had work, of course, and then I've also had midterms on top of that shit. So I've just been a little tired, but you know, work hasn't been too bad. The week before was a lot more stressful.
Yeah,
So I'm
about
not
right.
even. How was your week, Chief?
It was another rough week. A lot of kind of stressful stuff, but you know, kind of getting through it. Just another one of those kind of like mad weeks, you know what I mean? Where it's a thing. But I am happy I did finally get my birthday present that Karina got me quite a while ago, actually. So she had pre-ordered me a set of the new Digimon cards that came out. So so I finally got that. I was gonna actually stream opening it, but I was too excited, and I thought I had work at 8:30 the next morning, so I was like, I cannot stream this at 11 o'clock at night. I will not go to bed. I will be too excited, so I just opened it off stream, but I did actually order myself another set that I'm going to actually open on stream, so for those of you guys tuning into the stream, that's something you guys can look forward to down the line.
Did you get anything nice?
I actually pulled a full art Rise Greymon card that I can show you later. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
I don't know anything about Digimon, but I'll still appreciate it.
It's a good looking card. That's all you need to know. But
right, what's like a Pokemon equivalent of it?
Charizard, literally. It's essentially Mega Charizard Y. If War Greymon is Mega Charizard X, this is Mega Charizard Y, which, while not as popular or as cool, it's still pretty dope.
Yeah.
Alright. So, as you guys can see on my channel, we are playing some Pixelmon on my server. But for this week's subject, we're talking, because of the recent issues that have come up, cancel culture. So for those of you that, if you somehow don't know this, there's been the issue of Dr. Seuss books and Mr. Potato Head, Pepe Le Pew, where they were all canceled. I'm putting quotations around that. 100% they are, because I don't know about your opinion on this, Gustavo, but mine is they were not canceled properly. Because cancellation, to me, implies that they are no longer accessible. Everything about them is gone. It's very obvious with both of them. Go ahead.
Before we get into it, what is your opinion on cancel culture? Are you pro cancel culture or are you not?
It depends on if it's actually cancel culture or not. Because is it, and the context of it. Because cancel culture implies that there's a push to remove the media. That means there's outside forces to it. So when it comes to something like the Mr. Potato Head rebranding, that was an internal thing that, because I got in this argument actually with my mother, that it was an internal choice, not something like outside forces pushed for them to do. It was an internal choice because of the current environment. Same with Pepe Le Pew. Same with a lot of these other issues that have come up. It's been an internal thing. Where for me, like when I think of cancel culture, because I'm a huge nerd, I think of a couple major things. Mainly being the attempted cancellation of Harry Potter growing up, Dungeons and Dragons, and Pokemon. Those were all...
Wait. People trying to cancel Dungeons and Dragons and Pokemon?
So, I'm going to go into this whole ordeal. So...
I didn't know about this.
So, back in the 70s and 80s, when Dungeons and Dragons was first coming out, a lot of, especially Catholic individuals, viewed it as essentially initiating kids into Satanism and stuff. So they were extremely anti D&D to the point where like they literally made movies that satanized D&D players. It was actually Tom Hanks' first big movie called Mazes and Monsters. And so it's funny to think about Tom Hanks in that role. I would love to see his thoughts on D&D nowadays because of that role. But it's one of those funny things. So for anyone who doesn't know their history, because I've actually done studies on this, because I had to discuss it when I was taking screenwriting in school, because I was writing a screenplay about a bunch of kids that were dealing with the satanic panic, which is what it was called when they were pretty much demonizing everything. It was mainly D&D and rock music, but other things got grappled into it and stuff, and I had to actually do a study on it and understand kind of the mindset of it, and it came down to kind of similar to the Salem witch trials in a lot of ways, where it was just people not being comfortable with other people making choices, and they wanted to get control of their power, because rock music was considered a way of freedom. Dungeons and Dragons was seen as a way for kids to kind of get their imagination out there, so they kind of went against it pretty hardcore. So that's the D&D one. Harry Potter was because it was teaching magic to kids, according to most Catholic families and stuff. They were trying to ban Harry Potter in pretty much any way because of the magical...
It wasn't because of J.K. Rowling?
No, that's recent. We're going to talk about that in a bit. I'm talking about the original times, when it was just the books before the movies even existed.
Yeah, I thought you meant with J.K. Rowling.
Nope, I'll talk about the cancellation of J.K. Rowling. Yes, it was actually Harry Potter. So, they tried to essentially say that no, Harry Potter should not be a thing because it's going to teach kids how to use magic spells and stuff. That's what people legitimately thought. So it was the same issue people had with D&D, where it was going to teach magic. And so Pokemon's cancellation, yet again, Catholics. Not to attack them, but low-key kind of attacking them. They were against Pokemon for its ideal of teaching kids evolution, even though the evolution that they were against, aka Darwinism, is not at all what Pokemon is. Like, in any way, shape, or form. Anyone with half a brain knows that. So, yet again, it's people being naive and not understanding what they're talking about. Which leads into the more modern versions of cancel culture to me, which is the stuff like, as we were bringing up just now, J.K. Rowling, where her cancellation came from a education of her fan base to understand kind of the world a little more, and also her comments becoming more public and being not well-known knowledge. So, for me, J.K. Rowling's cancellation came down to, yet again, two factors. One, her going against what her fan base kind of stands for, which, let's be real, Potterheads are kind of very inclusion. So the fact that the figurehead to it all, the creator of it all, is so against transgender individuals is kind of telling, that they just immediately were like, no, we don't want any part of you being in our group. You didn't create this anymore, is kind of how it ended up turning out now. And a lot of people are like, oh, well, she still created it. It's still her intellectual property. And a lot of people argue, well, yes, it is still her intellectual property, but she's also sold it out to like everyone at this point. But also the bigger factor is she gave it out to the world, and so many people have taken it in as kind of their world because of how influential it was to them. Because Harry Potter, outside of probably like Pokemon and Disney, is probably not only the most influential multimedia franchise, but also one of the most profitable multimedia franchises.
Okay, it's pretty up there.
So, like, when you think about that, is the fact that she's so kind of backwards twisted in her own world that she thinks she's untouchable and that it can't be taken from her is kind of funny to me. But the fact
when you have an entire section on Disney World, it has
Universal,
to
not Disney.
Profitable. Wait, it's Universal.
It's Universal, not Disney. Disney does not own Harry Potter yet, though I'm sure they would love to.
What?
You didn't know that? Yeah, it's Universal Studios.
Wait. I could have sworn I've only been to Disney World and not Universal. Did I go to both when I went to Florida? Holy shit. Okay, my memory's a little bit fucked. I thought I only went to Disney World, but apparently I went to Universal as well.
Nice. I've not gone to either. But yeah. So that's where kind of people stand on that with J.K. Rowling. That's why a lot of people are trying to cancel her. Is her actions, her words. They're making sure that her kind of toxicity doesn't continue. Same with Gina. God, I can't remember her last name. From The Mandalorian. A lot of people are saying, oh, it's not justified her getting canceled for what she said. But she literally compared being a Republican to being a Jew in the Holocaust. How is that not justifiable cancellation?
That's a bit rough.
Exactly. That is literally justifiable in my mind in every way, shape, or form. Is she deserved her cancellation 100%. Anyone who says otherwise is literally just admitting that they are okay with that kind of hate speech. I will go on to like the more recent ones that are causing a tizzy. So I'm going to start with Dr. Seuss because this one is simple. He was not canceled. Dr. Seuss books are still out there, you imbeciles. There's my answer. I literally have a thing by my workplace in Walmart, by the pet section, that's just Dr. Seuss books to celebrate his birthday. They pulled 6 of his books, 5 of which haven't even been in print for the past 20 years. One sold 5,000 copies last year compared to Green Eggs and Ham that sold 500,000 copies. So, Dr. Seuss is not canceled. He is, at best, being censored in a way. They're removing books that no one cares about, that have racist undertones to them. And that was, spoiler alert, not liberal, or as I will put, as Republicans like to put, libtard trash that did it. It was the Dr. Seuss company themselves that made that choice. Because they want to keep Dr. Seuss's image family friendly and with the times. So they're removing a lot of his racist stuff. In which, if you don't know what I'm talking about, literally in one of the books, the one that actually did sell last year, The Things I Learned on Mulberry Street, there's a racist depiction of an Asian character in it. And for those of you that don't know, Dr. Seuss literally did racist caricatures for World War II. For those of you that don't know, there's a little history education for you. He actually did serve in the army with Stan Lee, both of them were cartoonists for the military to get support for the war. Another history fact for you guys. But yeah, no. So that's my take on Dr. Seuss. So yet again, not a cancellation, a censorship at best. Mr. Potato Head. Spoiler alert, Mr. Potato Heads are still being sold. Mrs. Potato Heads are still being sold. They changed the brand name, not his name, to Potato Head, because they're going to be pushing Mr. Potato Head, Mrs. Potato Head, along with a ton of other characters that they're introducing to the brand. In my opinion, it's probably a way to try to get essentially a new TV show maybe going, knowing Mattel or Hasbro.
What the issue on Potato Head is?
So it's literally because they've changed the name of the brand Mr. Potato Head to Potato Head instead of Mr. Potato Head. So I'm gonna call out Republicans here. I'm gonna kind of apologize for turning this political, but they turned it political first. So essentially they Republicans took it as, oh no, how could they stop making Mr. Potato Head? Why are they doing this? They're taking out gender norms. And one, they're not doing that. It's not at all what they're doing. They're just rebranding the entire brand under the Potato Head name over Mr. Potato Head. So I'm assuming that's gonna, as I said, it's probably a ploy to sell potato heads to girls too, where they're gonna tag it along with other things like they've already done. Because for those of you that don't know, Mr. Potato Heads have crossed over with other brands, including Marvel. I actually do have a Hawkeye Mr. Potato Head somewhere. I think I had a Black Widow one. I'm not sure. But no, so the Potato Head is not canceled. They rebranded the whole thing, which makes sense when you're thinking about it from a business perspective. You want to be inclusive, you change the name of it. Pepe Le Pew. So this one, a lot of people are misconstruing it. So Space Jam, people were asked about Pepe Le Pew appearing. They said there is no intention for Pepe Le Pew to be in that movie or any future projects. And people took that as him being canceled. Well, kind of ish. It's also just they don't have plans for him. And considering kind of some of the issues he does kind of bring up in certain aspects, which yes, you can change and kind of make it work a little better in the climate. That might be something they consider down the line if they get enough backlash. But I don't see a big enough need for what everybody's complaining about. Is like, because a lot of people are like, he was chasing the same girl for 25 years. Y'all can't even chase the same girl for 25 minutes. And I'm like, that's kind of not how that works. You're encouraging people to chase down the same girl even if she keeps saying no. That's what we're encouraging with that behavior. Do we not understand that? And so
if Pepe Le Pew actually gets canceled, I wouldn't be mad.
Like, why? That's literally how I feel about it. Is like, cool, sucks, childhood character that I loved, but at the same time, he's problematic. If you change his character, you make it work in the modern environment, cool.
I don't think with that character, I don't think
it wouldn't be the same character at that point.
Yeah, it's such a big part of him that I don't think
it's worth it.
Character without that. So
I 100% agree.
They should just stay not having
him exist
anymore. Yeah, that's a little rough.
Like in the current climate, especially, like you can't do stuff like that and expect things to work out. And then what was the other one? There's another recent cancellation that I want to talk about. Oh, God, Marjorie Green. Marjorie Taylor Greene. If you don't know who she is a senator for I can't remember which one she is. Senator or House Representative for one of them, and she has on multiple occasions been very hostile towards her fellow individuals, especially the squad, aka AOC, and the other 4 members, including running an ad during her time trying to get reelected, essentially saying we need to take them down, with her holding an AR-15 in her hand with a picture of the squad next to her. Like that. How is that not problematic? That should immediately eliminate you from any kind of public service, because that is essentially a borderline threat, in my opinion. So she's someone that... So a lot of the other things, as I said, are not cancellations. Potato Head is a rebrand. Seuss is a censorship. Pepe Le Pew, you can borderline say it's a cancellation, but at the same time, it's more of a, yeah, we have no plans. Like, where's the problem here with that? Is there's no plans. There's also no plans for frickin' He-Man. Or is he canceled? There's my answer. But
so, from this conversation so far, I'm feeling as if you are pro cancellation, but I can't tell for sure.
So I'm pro cancellation when it's viable, when there's a reason behind it. That isn't so, because I've had this argument actually with my stepmother, that I am very against governing based on religion. Because that's the argument for D&D, Harry Potter, and Pokemon's cancellation, was religious reasons.
Well,
religious reasons. Go ahead.
With that, that's also been something that's like way long ago. Like, you wouldn't see something get canceled like that for a reason like that now.
No, 100%. And that's why, like, modern day cancellations, usually they're kind of viable, or kind of have a good reasoning behind them, because there's a change in the political environment or the social environment. And like, that's an argument I had with my mother, is she's like, well, why does everything have to change now? And I was like, because people are being educated, people are understanding that some things just aren't okay, that we can't just expect people to be okay with saying the things they used to say, like removing the blackface episode of Golden Girls, or removing, what was it? Or putting a warning label on a couple of the Muppets episodes that went up on Disney Plus. A lot of people were claiming that to be cancel culture striking again, but
warning label was, they considered putting a warning label cancellation?
Thank you. It's not. It's helping people understand.
People just don't know. At this point, people just don't know what cancellation is. They consider any little change just to be cancellation.
Speaking of,
that's a bit rough.
Speaking of, I'm gonna flip that. So Republicans proceed to, as soon as all their things about cancel culture kind of get shot down, they proceed to try to cancel something again. They tried to cancel Cardi B because she performed WAP at the Grammys. That's it. She performed WAP at the Grammys. But the thing is, so my argument is, because everyone's talk is, oh, well, she shouldn't be performing that on live television and stuff. Monitor what your kids watch. There's my answer. Learn to monitor what your kids are doing. Because if you're going to let them have free reign and they find something like that, there's only one person's fault that is. It's yours. So for me, that's where I stand on that. Like, Cardi B, cool, she's somewhat problematic, whatever. At the same time, she's also not. It's not like she's saying.
I wouldn't even consider her problematic.
Because it's not, as she said, she's not there to make music for kids. Her music isn't for kids.
You consider pretty much the entire rap scene not toxic, but problematic. I wouldn't consider her problematic at all.
Thank you. Exactly.
Between a guy talking about all that, all she is talking about is the female side of everything.
Thank you. Like, how is that problematic?
Problems with that.
And like, I don't agree with.
If you're gonna go after one, you might as well
go after everyone,
because it's very like double standard.
And that's why, like, it's funny that millennials went after Eminem recently, and Republicans defended Eminem like, no, he's been doing this for years, and then they immediately go and attack Cardi B for the exact same thing. So it's annoying for me. Exactly. It's stupid because it's like, you guys, you do understand the thing you're protesting is also the thing you're absolutely using 100% of the time. Because the Republicans are extremely pro cancel culture. They've shown it for years. They are more than willing to cancel anything they don't agree with. They tried to cancel Hillary Clinton. They tried to cancel Biden. They've canceled pretty much anything that goes against them. They are immediate to attack it and try to say that it offends them and that it should be removed. And they've been doing it for years, and now that people are actually doing things based on like actual sense, like racist imagery or sexist imagery, it's now an issue. But like, for me, those are things that should get canceled for.
Me, I'm not the biggest fan of cancel culture, to be honest. I feel like at first, when cancel culture recently started getting big, I think there was good reasons behind it, but then now, as people are really trying to push cancel culture, it starts getting really just stupid. Like, people have been trying to get canceled, or not trying to get canceled, but people have been getting canceled or close to getting canceled for really stupid reasons lately.
Oh, I agree. If it's, as I said, if it's not for a good reason, like, as I said, the girl from Mandalorian deserved her cancellation. 100%. J.K. Rowling deserves hers. Though there are problematic individuals that are literally spouting hate speech. That's something that would get you canceled on Twitch for. Saying something like Republicans are the same as Jews in the Holocaust would get you canceled on Twitch or YouTube quick as hell. But you can say it on Twitter and people will defend you. Hi, John, by the way.
That's just rough.
Like, for me, it's a double-edged sword, but at the same time, like, if there's good reasoning behind it, I'm okay with it. When it's stupid things that don't make sense. Go ahead.
One thing that I just don't like about cancel culture is it's like, yes, there's a big group of people, but it's a group of people trying to make a choice for others. Because if they're trying to cancel, they're trying to remove it off of whatever it is they're on, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're in agreement there?
Yep.
Yeah, that's pretty much saying, I don't like this, and here's my reason, and this is why you can't watch this or can't listen to this or whatever the case is.
Mm-hmm.
That I'm not the biggest fan of that. I personally think if you want to cancel something, just like don't support it yourself, and like just leave it to people's opinions. If there's a reason big enough for it to be canceled, I understand if it's like completely removed off of it, but as long as it's justified and not just like a really stupid reason. And if it's a really stupid reason and you still want to cancel it, just leave it to your own opinion. Yes, you can freely voice your own opinion and you can go for it. That's all you. But trying to force that opinion onto other people, I'm not the biggest fan of that.
So, because actually this was an argument I had with my cousin, actually, was about Disney removing Dumbo and Peter Pan from Disney Plus. And she was like, well, why does that make any sense and everything? I'm like, well, because you have to understand, is those are extremely old movies with extremely racist, not even undertones. They are blatant in your face. There's a character called Jim Crow that is literally, essentially, a dude doing a classic African American, like, stereotypes throughout, like, a good chunk of the movie. And it's not like he's a minor, like, half a second character. He has an entire dialogue about, I've never seen an elephant fly. And it's, like, super messed up. And in Peter Pan, there's, why is the red man red? Like, how is that not blatantly racist? And my cousin, her argument to it was like, well, then you use it to teach your kids. I'm like, that's under the assumption everyone's going to teach their kids right, one, or not use it as a way to show their kids that their racism is justified. That's where my issue with it comes down to, is who's to say someone doesn't use it to justify their racism? Because for me, that's my issue.
There's no real way for you to control, like, even if you're the creator, there's no way for you to control what's going to be done with whatever you make.
Exactly.
Like, for this podcast, for example, it can be used for, it can be taken in any direction.
Yeah, it could be taken straight out of context.
There's no way for us to really control what other people take away from this.
Mm-hmm.
Or how they view it.
Exactly, 100%.
Like, just try your best to, not make something shitty.
Oh, I 100% agree, and that's one of the things, like, became very apparent, like, with recent stuff, is, like, yes, people do need better education on the goings-on of the world and the issues that are, but schools obviously aren't going to teach it. Oh, hello. I hate when that happens. But, because, let's be real, some parents would, if they found out, oh, my kid's going to be taught about race issues, they'll pull them out of that kind of class and stuff. And that's not right. Kids need to understand these situations are going around the world. And if you want to justify your kids watching racist media and stuff, they also need that education on why it's wrong. And not every parent's willing to do that. Let's be honest. There are a lot of parents that aren't willing to do that kind of education. So, I understand the process on, like, I'm not for canceling everything. I would prefer proper education from it. Except for with individuals. Like, as I said, J.K. Rowling, her cancellation was deserved. There's no re-educating that kind of toxic hate.
Yeah, that's another thing. When it comes to individuals getting canceled, I hate it when someone makes a mistake and it's like a one-time thing and their career is completely over. Like,
I agree.
Everyone fucks up. And I fucking hate it when things like that was said years before
J.J. Abrams.
get brought up. What?
So, I don't know if you know who J.J. Abrams is. He was the director for Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2. Or not J.J. Abrams, James Gunn. Somebody had found a tweet of his from like 14, 15 years ago where he used
Shit.
I think he had used a racist comment or something, and he immediately apologized when it got brought to light. He's like, that was an older me. I've since learned, anyone who knows me knows that is not me now. But, like, Marvel pulled him immediately from Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Dude, that shit's so fucking stupid to me.
I agree, especially if it's an older comment. An older comment, I would accept somebody trying
if
to...
If it's recent, I understand. Exactly. If it's recent, I understand. But if it's like fucking 14 years, that's literally someone looking for you to fuck up.
Yeah, somebody's digging up your entire past. Because I don't know if you actually know this.
A way to bring you down.
So Hulk Hogan, actually. So he is... A lot of people are very pro Hogan. They love Hulk Hogan. They think he can do no wrong. Spoiler alert for those of you that don't know. He's a raging racist. He was known to hold especially African American wrestlers back. He was known to pretty much not care about other people. And so it was one of those things, like, Hogan is actually extremely problematic, but so many people still see him as this great figure in wrestling. But he's actually, like, extremely, extremely racist. And so when it actually got publicized, because he had a XXX rated video come out of him, where he commented that his daughter was dating a N-word. Yeah, he got pulled from the WWE Hall of Fame, pretty much. They cut all ties with him and everything. And a lot of people were like, oh, this isn't justified. But it kind of is, dude.
That's a guy.
Exactly. That's how I feel towards that. Is like, that's... And like, when he recently came back to WWE and stuff, a lot of the wrestlers were very much like, no, we want no part of you, dude. Like, you've made it apparent who you are. And you've given us no reason to believe you've changed. Other than you lost billions of dollars. So, like...
Yeah.
Actually, that leads into...
individuals.
Exactly. And, like... Go ahead.
Yeah, when it comes to individuals, like, I understand if it's just something recent that's said, because obviously it's recent, so that's what they just believe. But if you're digging the past for some shit, or if someone just genuinely fucks up in the moment, and their entire career is over because of that, that's literally saying there's no room for you to grow. There's...
100% agree.
That's it, you're done. There's no... The whole point of being human is literally making mistakes and learning from them. That's how we mature, and that's how we advance in life. That's a part of being human. It doesn't matter who you are or where you come from. That's how you learn.
I 100% agree. It comes down to those individuals that aren't willing to learn.
Too much shit gets canceled just because of dumb shit like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's the part of cancel culture that really pisses me off. And now that cancel culture has been going on for such a long time, to me that's mostly what I see now. Like, there are times that, yes, it's justified and I understand it, but there's also a lot of times where it's just like, what the fuck are you doing?
100% agree. That I think that there are a lot of issues like that. There are those issues of, hey, how do you... Whoa, what the hell? It's Dynamaxing?
You can Dynamax and Pixelmon? What the fuck?
Apparently.
Okay.
But yeah, no. So I 100% agree with a lot of what you said. Yet again, my issues come down to there are individuals that, yet again, deservingly become canceled. And there are individuals that don't. Quite a few that don't. Like, I know RuPaul, a lot of people tried to cancel them for a bit because of comments they made. Who was another big one? I know a lot of Trump supporters were getting canceled for their comments. And I am very open about my anti-Trumpness. Very open. I don't believe anyone should be canceled for just supporting him. It's when they come down to like agreeing with some of his more extreme tendencies. Like if you can say, I support Trump, but there's issues I have with him, then I can at least say, hey, you at least have half a brain. But if you're like, no, he's right about everything, I'm like, no. And that's where my issues kind of lie with a lot of Trump supporters. Hey, I got my first gym badge in Pixelmon.
Nice.
But I dropped it. Because I'm out of space. But, like, for me, that's where I stand on, like, I don't like cancellation. I don't think it helps. But at the same time, I do think that there are times where it needs to be done. Just because, like, that's one of the things about the world is sometimes some people need to learn their lesson, and they're not just going to learn it because, oh, you lost billions of dollars. So, for me, that's where I stand on that. Like, I don't, as I said, I don't completely agree with all cancellations. I think I would prefer the people to have the ability to be taught. Especially something like Peter Pan and Dumbo, stuff like that. I understand why they're canceled because you can't expect everybody to be educated. But let's say we were to get to the point where like we could consider racial education and understanding racism as mandatory learning in school, then why can't those subjects be taught and kids to watch the movies and be taught to understand what's problematic about them? That's where I wish we could be going.
That's a whole nother issue.
Exactly. That's why this is a cancellation is a temporary band-aid to a much bigger problem. That's how I feel about cancellation. It's a band-aid. Sooner or later we need to face the actual issues here, such as extreme racism and everything. That's just something we have to figure out. Until we can get to that point, though, is where we kind of have the issue. Because I don't see that even feasible anytime soon is the horrible thing. It doesn't seem like we're going to be ready for that kind of discussion of, hey, we're going to help deal with the racism problem and going to find a way to make it better and help people understand the issues that are being brought up. I don't think we're to that point even now.
See, one big issue that I see about that is, whenever you go to school, whether it's high school, middle school, even college, you're forced to learn history, right?
Yep.
And it's usually the same thing that you learn, just more advanced as you go on. But
yep.
When it comes to like things like Black history or any other culture's history,
yeah, literally any.
It's always an elective.
Yep.
It's a choice whether you want to learn that,
or it's a 1 month course or 1 month section of the schooling that they talk about that because it's mandatory. Like, oh, it's Black History Month. We're going to learn all about Black history in 1 month. It's not how that works.
It's always a choice. It's never
mandatory.
This is what we need to learn.
Mm-hmm. And we need to get to the
that's one
point
of the
where
problems
that
I
is.
see about it.
Oh yeah, 100% agree.
Yeah, that's a whole different animal right there.
Oh yeah, that's very much something we can discuss in a later episode if people are interested in that topic. But yeah, that's definitely something that I think that is the end game answer to cancel culture is proper education. Whether or not we ever get to that point is a whole nother animal. I think that, at least in my mind, that is the answer. It's not, oh, everybody needs to stop being such a bunch of snowflakes and stop being offended by everything. No. It's people need to learn from each other and be able to understand. So that kind of media is no longer being made where we don't have a racist caricature in a children's movie happening anymore or any other problematic things. So this is something I wanted to bring up because when Karina and I went and saw Raya in theaters recently, because our local movie theater finally opened up, we were very excited about that. I actually commented to Karina that I felt like the two kind of main characters almost feel like they were meant to be in a relationship together. And then the thought went into my mind of, yeah, there's no way they would have done that for one major reason. People would have canceled it for making them a couple when they're gay characters. Where if it was a male and a female, people would have applauded it. Been like, yes, great character development. And best friends turned enemies, turned friends again, turned lovers. People would have applauded that if that was a male and a female. But if it was two females, people would have canceled the movie. Said Disney is ruining everything. So that's why Disney probably didn't fully do it and just hinted to it. And I think that's another problem is, like, they have to fear that cancel culture coming to them from the other end of the spectrum, kind of parents and all that, where they have to worry about, oh, they're going to cancel us because we wanted to support inclusion and stuff, where other people are trying to cancel them for pushing exclusion and these other issues. People want them canceled for having that, but at the same time, there's people that want to support Disney even though they're doing all these problematic things. So I think that's because I enjoyed Raya. I will state that. I do feel like that was something they were hinting at, but they would not pull the trigger. And I understand why Disney wouldn't pull the trigger. That is a big step and could cause a lot of issues for them. Would I prefer they had been able to? Like, that wasn't an issue? Of course. I would much rather them not have to fear losing customers just because they want to show inclusion in their movies. Because for me, that's what everything is about. You want to see people you can relate to in movies. Right? That's the big point. That's why for a lot of people, because like for me, yet again, I'm a straight white male, but I'm a massive nerd, where most nerds in culture, especially like way back, were just considered, oh, goofy guys, can't get the girl and stuff. And like, that's not really how it is nowadays. That's why like Big Bang Theory, even though that has its own problems, kind of helped at least nerd culture kind of come back to the forefront again. Even though obviously Marvel had already been doing it and people were like, oh my god, Marvel's like the greatest thing ever. But at the same time, there was inclusion for me already, where I could see myself in characters like Batman and Spider-Man and all that. But for a lot of people, they can't because of stuff because of them being of color or LGBTQ or female even, where they can't see themselves as these characters because of that. And some people are fine with that. It's like, no, you shouldn't be allowed in inclusion. Like when Miles Morales first came out and we were getting a black Spider-Man, people raged so hard. But now look at how many people absolutely love Miles Morales, especially when you look at Into the Spider-Verse. Like, he's now very much a icon character where you think of Spider-Man and you don't just think of Peter Parker. You now can see Miles Morales as another Spider-Man. So for me, that's where my issue with so many people being so cancel culture heavy when it comes to other issues such as race and gender identity and stuff like that, is those people are willing to cancel anything that breaks, I'm going to phrase this properly, their norm. Not the norm, their norm.
Yeah, when it comes to stuff like that, Brian, can you hear me properly, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you.
My internet is like, okay, my internet seems to be going all over the place right now. But, anyways, when it comes to stuff like that, it really feels like you're just trying to push your own opinions towards, like, other people, and you're not really giving them a choice to make their own opinion. But that's what it feels like in situations like those.
Mm-hmm.
And that's my main problem with cancel culture.
And while I can understand that process, because, like, I understand that thought process, but it goes kind of both ways in a lot of ways. Because, like, something Karina and I have talked about in the past is Elsa. And the fact that Disney later on said, oh, yeah, that girl that was singing with Elsa, yeah, she's lesbian and stuff, but they did not show that in the movie. They made no big deal out of it, and it almost feels like they're hinting to her and Elsa having a relationship, but what's the chances of that? And Karina's thought process on that was, the issue with it here is how many kids are going to, because they want to be Elsa, just identify differently because of that. Which I agree and disagree with, because some kids will be too young to understand. But yet again, it's for those kids that maybe already are and kind of know it, and they want that representation. Because let's be real, once again, that is one of my biggest things with media, is getting that, oh, I almost just fell in lava. Oh! That's what I get for running. Is making sure people are represented, because I think it's very important, because as I've said, I've done a lot of creative writing studies and stuff, and studies on different storytelling and stuff. And when I was doing a creative narrative writing thing, we were told to essentially go and talk about a social issue that people don't think about. And I did comic books and the inclusion changes that they've made, because so many people look at comic books as, oh, nerdy white male. But when you look at especially the heroes nowadays, they are so diverse that it's literally, there's a hero for everyone at this point. Which I know that probably sounds like some gimmicky shit Marvel or DC would use. Let's be real. But it's true. Most kids can find a hero that kind of, at least in one way or another, feels like them. Like Muslim Americans can find that in Kamala Khan, aka the new Miss Marvel, or Latino characters have America Chavez, the new Captain America, and stuff. So there's a lot of, hell, Falcon being now Captain America gives another, considering the sad loss of Chadwick Boseman, gives us another great African American hero to look up to for a lot of kids, where he's not just the sidekick, he's Captain America. And some people are against it, but I think it's a great way for kids to understand that they can move on and do whatever they want. And that's why I'm against cancel culture, because it does change things, but I'm also pro education of why things are problematic. I think that's my end ticket to this episode, is I'm anti cancel culture for no reason, pro education of problematic issues. That's where I stand. I think that's how I'm going to phrase that. Your thoughts, Gustavo?
To me, I'd say just make sure you're informed and you know the entire story before you try to cancel something. Because there's a lot of things that can be avoided if you just like see the entire story instead of just like, oh, you heard this on this was trending on Twitter and it's just like cancel this person. That's all you see. So I'm gonna join them too because that's just what everyone else is doing. Don't be that person.
I 100% agree because, like,
if
I
you're
said,
gonna try to cancel something, make sure you know what the fuck you're trying to cancel.
Mm-hmm,
Don't just join other people just to join them. It's stupid.
100% a problematic thing. And as I said, a lot of my family that I've talked to, they very much fall into the anti-cancel culture without understanding why things. Let me rephrase this: that they're not being canceled, because a lot of it is just they're not being canceled. And they very much fall under the idea that, oh, it's being canceled, how could they do this, and not understanding, because like one of my cousins was like, oh, well, there's not even going to be Dr. Seuss books for me to read to my kids, and it's like, no, there are. They took away 5 or 6 of them. There's still like 40 plus books you can read to your kids and stuff. So that's where my thing comes down to, is educate yourself on both ends of cancel culture, both why things are being canceled and if they're actually being canceled. That's my stance. But with that being said, that wraps up this week's episode. Gustavo, I know you're currently not streaming the podcast. Do you still want to plug your stuff or no?
Not really. I'm not doing anything right now, so I feel no need for it.
That's valid. So you can find me obviously here at twitch.tv/Hawkeye57. My YouTube is linked there. My Twitter is at Hawkeye57_. Then I do have a Facebook now that's connected to my own that I share stuff on. I haven't done much other than promoting this on it. I haven't done anything like extremely interesting on it. I don't think there's any place else you can find me. Next week, though, I want to do a couple other small plugs quick. I officially have a stream schedule that is starting tomorrow. Officially.
Hey, congrats. Nice.
So I am changing it slightly for Sundays. Sundays will move earlier in the day because I'm going to be playing D&D with a friend Sunday nights, which he does stream, which is twitch.tv/MomoMix. You can come see my fun character I built for that. Along with that, next week, Gustavo and I have already talked what the episode theme is, and because next week is the official start of season 5 for My Hero Academia, we're going to talk anime. So come back for that and come talk some anime with us. With that, once again, thank you for coming and joining us in Gaming with a Point.
Bye-bye.